This is a video walkthrough for problem 5-2B. Hark Enterprises is located in Taft, Wyoming, and has 6 employees who are paid on a semi-monthly basis. Here we will calculate the net pay from the information provided for the August 15th pay date. Assuming all wages are subject to Social Security and Medicare taxes, and using the wage bracket tables in Appendix C to determine federal income tax withholding. Wyoming is one of 9 states with no state income tax, so we will not have a state income tax for this problem. We are going to complete this one employee at a time in order to keep the data straight. Our first employee is L. Fletcher. L. Fletcher is a married employee with 5 withholdings and has gross pay for the pay period of $1,320. We do not have any worries about the hours, and we have no information that the employee has commissions, so our gross earnings for the period is $1,320. Fletcher contributes 2% of gross pay to the 401k, so we will take gross pay times 0.02. L. Fletcher does not have any deductions for Section 125. Therefore, our taxable wages for federal withholding will be gross less 401k. For FICA, 401k is not deductible, but Section 125 is. So for FICA taxes, it will just be his gross pay of $1,320. Coming down to the second half of the table, he has gross earnings of $1,320, taxable for federal withholding of $1,293.60. That reduction is due to the 401k of $26.40, and taxable for FICA of $1,320. On the right-hand side, you see the wage bracket method. So we go down to the married table where we can find $1,293. And that's going to be in this range here. And Fletcher has 5 withholdings, so we follow the 5 column until we get down to the 1,293, and it shows that he will have no federal income taxes. Social Security is taxable wages for FICA times 0.062, and Medicare is taxable wages for FICA times 0.0145. We have no information on garnishments or United Way contributions, so his net pay will be gross earnings less federal withholding, less Social Security, less Medicare, less 401k contribution, for a total of $1,192.62. Continuing on to S. Lentz, who is single with no withholdings and earned this period $1,745, giving gross earnings of $1,745. Lentz contributes $220 to the 401k plan and does not contribute to a Section 125. Taxable for earnings less the 401 for a total of $1,525. Again, 401 is not a reduction for FICA taxes, so gross earnings will be taxable for FICA. Coming down to the lower table, gross earnings of $1,745, federal taxable wages of $1,525, taxable wages for FICA of $1,745. For federal withholding, we will now need to scroll up the table until we find our single, semi-monthly payroll, and we need to find $1,525, which will be in this range, and there are 0 withholding. The federal income tax will be $157. Our Social Security calculation has not changed. It'll be taxable wages for FICA times 0.062, and our Medicare calculation has not changed. Taxable wages for FICA times 0.0145. We have no information about United Way contributions or garnishments, so our net pay is going to be our gross, less our federal, less our Social Security, less our Medicare, less our 401k, for a total net pay of $1,234.51. Our next employee is A. Brown. A. Brown is single with 5 withholding allowances and earned $2,120 this pay period. There's no information about commissions, so A. Brown's total gross earnings for the pay period are $2,120. Brown contributes $150 to 401k and $25 per pay period for the Section 125 plan. Taxable wages for federal are going to be the gross earnings less 401 less Section 125. Taxable wages for FICA are going to be gross earnings less Section 125, as 401k plans are not deductible for FICA taxes. So gross earnings on the lower table have not changed, so we have $2,120. Taxable for federal equals $1,945. And taxable for FICA equals $2,095. Scrolling down this table, we find taxable income of $1,945, which will be in this row. Scrolling back up, we find the column for 5, and we follow it down, showing federal income taxes of $104. Social Security calculation has not changed. It is our taxable for FICA times 0.062, and our calculation for Medicare has not changed. It's taxable for FICA times 0.0145. There's no information about United Way or a garnishment, so our net pay will be our gross minus our federal minus our Social Security minus our Medicare minus our 401 minus our 125 plan, for a total net pay of $1,680.73. Our next employee is R. Kimball. R. Kimball is married with 6 withholdings and earned $1,570 this pay period. We have no information about commissions, so his gross pay is going to be $1,570. He has no contributions to either Section 125 or 401, so his taxable income is going to be gross earnings without any adjustments for $1,570. Coming down to the second half of the table, gross earnings of $1,570, federal taxable wages of $1,570, and taxable FICA of $1,570. We need to scroll down until we find the married bracket. We are going to place our cursor over the 6, and we're going to follow that down until we find federal taxable wages in the bracket of $1,570, which is going to be here, which is giving us federal income taxes of $6. Our Social Security tax calculation has not changed. It's taxable wages for FICA times 0.062, and our calculation for Medicare has not changed. It's taxable wages for FICA times 0.0145. He has United Way contribution of $25 and a garnishment of $75 per pay period. Kimball's net pay will be gross earnings less federal less Social Security, less Medicare, less United Way, less garnishments, and we have no 401k or Section 125 for a total of $1,343.90. Moving on to our fifth employee, F. Montero, who is married with no withholding allowances and earned $2,200 this pay period. There are no commissions earned, so his gross earnings will be $2,200. Montero contributes 4% of gross pay to 401k, so you'll take gross pay and multiply it by 0.04, and has Section 125 deductions of $100 per pay period. This gives us federal taxable wages of gross minus the 88 for 401k minus the 100 for Section 125 for a total of $2,012. Taxable wages for FICA are going to be gross earnings minus the $100 for Section 125 for a total of $2,100. Moving on to the lower table, we have gross earnings of $2,200, federal taxable earnings of $2,012, and FICA taxable earnings of $2,100. Looking at the married table for semi-monthly, for federal taxable wages of $2,012, it'll be in this range, with zero withholdings, gives federal tax of $168. Our calculation for Social Security is taxable wages for FICA times 0.062, and our calculation for Medicare is our taxable wages for FICA times 0.0145. Montero has no United Way or garnishment, giving us net pay of gross minus federal minus Social Security minus Medicare minus 401k minus Section 125 for a total of $1,683.35. Moving on to our final employee, K. Gianni, is single with 2 withholding allowances and earned this pay period $1,485. There's no commissions listed, so gross earnings will be $1,485. She contributes $120 to her 401k plan and does not have a Section 125. Taxable wages for federal purposes are going to be gross earnings, less 401k. Taxable wages for FICA will be gross earnings since there is no 125. Filling in the lower half of the calculations, we have gross earnings of $1,485, federal taxable wages of $1,365, taxable wages for FICA of $1,485. Scrolling back up to single, we are looking for federal taxable wages on a single person of $1,365, which will fall into this bracket. She has 2 withholding allowances, so we'll follow that column down for $96 in federal taxes. Our calculation for Social Security has not changed. It's FICA taxable wages times 0.062, and our calculation for Medicare has not changed, which is taxable wages for FICA times 0.0145. We have no garnishments and no United Way calculations, so our net pay will be our gross, less our federal, less Social Security, less Medicare, less 401k, for a total of $1,155.40.